The AFC East just got very, very interesting after a Drake Maye-JOR upset in Buffalo. That and more on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, The Legacy, Louis DiBiase. On today's show, we are going to recap an insane Week 5 in the NFL. We got two massive blowouts with the Ravens and the Colts going in opposite directions. We got 5 wild comebacks that we got to go over, including the Philadelphia Eagles taking their first loss of the year. But we got to start with this Sunday Night Football upset where the Buffalo Bills also take their first loss of the year to the New England Patriots. Before we dive in, though, I do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen. Reminder, you can follow our show and hear new episodes ad-free daily on Amazon Music, so go check that out. And thank you for being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our favorite players, Mazda sweats every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Mazda moving the game forward moment. Mazda, move and be moved. Speaking of the unexpected, the New England Patriots pull off a massive upset over the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. The Patriots are 3-2 now. Back-to-back wins. Drake Maye looks great. Really, really impressive early on. Buffalo had some mistakes. There are some injuries there. Are you looking at this, Louis, and being like, hey, man, the Pats have a chance in this division?
Yeah, I think there's always a moment for a young quarterback where everything changes. Like, this is their defining moment that kind of has them break out, right?
Yeah.
And I think this might have been that for Drake Maye. I mean, that cover 2 honey hole shot to put the Patriots in field goal range is big boy stuff. Like,
yes,
that is elite quarterback play. And there's only so many quarterbacks that have the arm talent to fit the ball in that kind of tight window. Stephon Diggs looks like a legit go-to target for a player in year 2, which always allows a quarterback to have a breakout. I think Diggs allowed that for Josh Allen as well when he was with the Buffalo Bills. So I'm not saying suddenly the Patriots are a Super Bowl contender in the NFL, but at 3-2 with a quality win like this under their belt, it certainly makes them a playoff contender and somebody that's going to push Buffalo in the AFC East because of their quarterback's talent. It's still very up and down, but this was a big-time moment for a year 2 quarterback.
And, dude, look at the next 3 games for the Patriots.
Last
Saints,
place schedule, man.
Titans, Browns. I mean, they're looking at 6-2
every
right
year.
now.
There's just the kind of team, right? It was Washington last year. If it's New England this year, I thought it might be the Jets, but I thought it could be a team of the AFC East, and it might be the Pats.
100%. I mean, they are looking like a team ready to go, and credit where it's due. Mike Vrabel always finds a way. That's why on
He's
Thursday,
an elevator. Yep.
Friday's show, me and Nick Cattles from Locked On Patriots, I said not only am I taking the Patriots in my madman's moneymaker here, plus 8.5, I think they can win this game, and that's exactly what they did. But that was a great game. You do got to look at it from the Buffalo perspective, and while Buffalo took the loss, they did a lot of uncharacteristic stuff we're not used to seeing, and that's what my guy Joe Marino from Locked On Bills focused on.
It was an uncharacteristic night for the Buffalo Bills, who fall 23-22 to the New England Patriots. The Bills rarely lose at home, they rarely lose division games, and they rarely make the type of mistakes that led to this loss. 3 giveaways on offense, 11 penalties for 90 yards, and the sloppy effort results in the Bills' first loss of the season. The Patriots now 3-2, the Bills at 4-1. And the AFC East might get a little interesting down the stretch, but I don't think the Bills are going to have many performances like they had tonight. And this time, it cost them a loss.
You know, I'm going to be honest, though. I'm not going to I'm not going to overreact on the Bills side of this. The Bills are still a great football team. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be right there at the end. I don't have as many. To me, this is a coming out party, like you said, for Drake Maye and the Patriots, more than some sort of, sign that the Bills are going to fall apart or something.
No, I don't think anybody is who they're going to be at the end of the season in the months of September and October. And for a team like the Bills, 4-1, you'll take that. I think this is more about what the Patriots did right than any sort of concerns about what the Bills are doing wrong long term. I really think this was about Drake Maye going on the road to maybe the best team in football and getting such a gritty win. But Buffalo was right in it until the end. And I don't think there's any concerns in Buffalo. This is just the NFL this time of year.
Now, speaking of a quarterback going on the road, getting a massive win, Baker Mayfield, they called me a madman when I said he would be the MVP of the NFL this year, but he does it again with another game-winning drive. And my guy James Yarko from Locked On Bucs talked about the huge win in Seattle, 38-35.
The official mantra of the 2025 Buccaneers is, it wasn't pretty, but they got the job done. James Yarko here of Locked On Bucs talking about the Buccaneers' 38-35 victory over the Seattle Seahawks, where Baker Mayfield finished 29 of 33 for 379 yards and a touchdown, and yet another last-minute game-winning drive, thanks in large part to a touchdown pass that he had to Sterling Shepard to tie the game. Then pressure by Antoine Winfield Jr. leads to an interception by Levante David inside Seattle territory. The Bucs are able to run the clock all the way down, and with 3 seconds left, Chase McLaughlin kicks another game winner. The Bucs now move to 4-1, tied atop the NFC East, along with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Detroit Lions. More on this and all things Buccaneers over on Locked On Bucs, 5 days a week, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I mean, Baker just won't go down. And I saw a crazy stat on Sunday Night Football that this is the first game in NFL history where both quarterbacks threw for 375 yards and completed 80% of their passes. This was an absolute shootout. And credit to the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are a very, very good football team, but doesn't matter the injuries, doesn't matter the situation. This Buccaneers team refuses to die.
And Baker Mayfield refuses to die. That is what develops into a legit MVP campaign, is when a quarterback is elevating a team to this kind of level where he puts up 379 yards and 2 touchdowns on 33 attempts and only has 4 incompletions against a defense that I think might be the most underrated in the NFL. Like, Seattle's defense from top to bottom is legit. So for Baker Mayfield to do that, it's unbelievable. I mean, that MVP pick looks really good, and they have the record to show it too. Like, at 4-1, like, you gotta be, if you're gonna win MVP, you gotta be a top 2 team in your conference. And Tampa Bay is right there with Philadelphia going down today. Detroit getting a win at 4-1. It's the Baker Mayfield, the Mika Ibuka show. Like, I mean, 163 yards on 7 catches and a touchdown today. The steal of the draft to get that guy at the bottom of the first round. I mean, he is unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, what a performance. And with all the injuries that they're having and Mike Evans being out and Godwin coming back slowly and McMillan on IR, like, they needed him desperately to immediately be a number 1 wide receiver, and he has delivered as much as you possibly could. But with that being said, that's only 2 games and an insane week 5 in the NFL. We had 5 wild comebacks. Louis just mentioned it. Sure, it can't be fun, but the Eagles did drop. No more undefeated teams left, but you got to give credit where it's due, and these comebacks were pretty crazy. We're going to break all 5 of them down. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of home, whether it's a sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. We just talked about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers getting a massive win. Imagine how they're celebrating at Toast Tampa right now. I mean, imagine how they're celebrating at Shake Shack in Tampa right now, at Coco's Sandwich Shop, all the great local businesses that you've come to love. We know that Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnNFL to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy that you did. It's Square. See you in the neighborhood. Also want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward moment. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and they keep the game moving forward. And this week's moment that moved the game forward is the Buffalo Bills falling to the New England Patriots. We got to give the Mazda moving the game forward moment to Drake Maye and Stephon Diggs, pulling off the big upset on the road in prime time, announcing themselves to the NFL world as a serious contender. And look, when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. It's Mazda. Move and be moved. All right, Louie, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. We talked about two massive games, the upset by the New England Patriots, the Buccaneers pulling off another comeback behind Baker Mayfield. Well, not really a comeback, but you know what I mean. Another game-winning drive in there. But comeback is on the mind because we saw some insane comebacks in the NFL on Sunday, and we got to start, hate to do it to you, Louie, but with your Philadelphia Eagles, who were up 14 points in the fourth quarter and found a way to lose to the Denver Broncos. My guy Cody Roark from Locked On Broncos talked about the surprising win, and it was a major surprise to Cody, who wasn't very happy about the Broncos' early performance.
Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos offense rally from a 17-3 deficit to stun the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions, on the road here. After the Broncos offense and Nix struggled all throughout the entire first half, the Broncos defense, they found a way to overcome giving up a touchdown on their opening defensive series to start the second half there. Defensively, they got a few more stops there, and Bo Nix and the offense, they put together some incredible drives, including contributions from J.K. Dobbins, Cortland Sutton coming up with some big-time catches on third down, Evan Ingram finally getting involved here late in this Broncos offense, and all of a sudden, Sean Payton and Bo Nix, they opened things up and unlocked a little bit more of this Broncos offense that we've been waiting to see for quite some time. The defense hangs on, and the Broncos, they go to London now next week victorious over the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. For more, make sure you check out the Locked On Broncos podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
I mean, things were ugly for the Broncos early in this game. They couldn't get anything going. Bo Nix looked out of sorts. And then, you know, sometimes this happens in the NFL. You just get a little bit of momentum and it just rolls and rolls and rolls.
Yeah, it was 4 drives specifically in the second half where the Eagles just couldn't maintain any sort of time of possession. All 4 drives in a row were under 2 minutes long, and it allowed Denver to get back into this football game. Right now, the Philadelphia Eagles have just lost their superpower of running the ball in the second half to close out leads. They are constantly relying on their young defense to bail them out, which is kind of embarrassing considering all the talent, the star power that's proven, veterans that are paid top 5, top 10 money are on the offense. For the offense to be this inconsistent this year, where they look great in the first half and terrible in the second half, or vice versa, every single week is inexcusable. So I'm not going to take anything away from Denver. They're an extremely underrated team in the NFL right now, but this is starting to be a weekly occurrence for the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's not just because of one thing.
And it's very strange to me to look at the box score. You know, I didn't see a lot of Saquon Barkley runs. It was shocking to check and see he only got the ball 6 times. What happened there?
I think it's the A.J. Brown effect. It's they're trying to get this passing game back on track after all the drama this week. I think the matchup presented them to throw the football, but I think they went too far in the opposite approach where they just didn't try to establish the run at all. Saquon had that 17-yard run, and they really never went back to him. So I think their new play caller, Kevin Patullo, is really struggling to find an identity for this offense. And this seems to happen, Tyler, every year the Eagles get a new play caller that they promote from within. Despite all the star power on offense, it takes a long time for them to get going in seasons. So hopefully they figure it out, but they're 4-1 now because of the offense.
You know what? It's just crazy to me to think that, like, we win games a certain way, but that makes some of our players unhappy. So we have to try to do something different, and it results in a loss. Like, this is just like,
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, I'm a big A.J. Brown guy, I have to admit, but, man, that seems a little poisonous.
It's a tough look, and he could have had the dagger touchdown, and I don't want to say he gave up on the route in the third quarter, but
He definitely
he
slowed down
certainly
on that
stopped
route.
running, and that would have been the game because they would have been up 24-3. So I agreed with A.J. Brown. The Eagles needed to fix the passing game, but they just took it too far in the opposite approach now, where they had one designed run attempt in the second half. Like, they're just really struggling. It's all one way or the other with this football team, and it's just very out of sync right now. So they got to bounce back on Thursday night against New York.
Like we talked about with Buffalo, though, I'm not going to, like, hit a panic button on the
Agreed.
Eagles or anything.
Agreed.
They're a great team. They're going to be fine. They'll be there at the end, no doubt about that. But a team I am a little bit worried about is the Los Angeles Chargers, who were up 10-0 on the Washington Commanders and then blew that game and got blown out, really, 27-10 by the end of it. And my guy Daniel Wade from Locked On Chargers talked about the disappointing loss.
Back-to-back weeks, the Chargers have played undisciplined, sloppy football. In back-to-back weeks, they've taken ugly losses. The Chargers got off to a hot start on Sunday, getting out 10-0 on the Commanders, and were driving to make it 17-0 potentially when Quentin Johnston turned the game on its head with a bad fumble that was recovered by the Commanders, leading to their first touchdown. After that, the end of the first half, Chargers have a chance to swing the momentum, and a Ladd McConkey punt return touchdown has them up 17-7, except it's called back by a roughing the kicker, and that was the story of the game. The Chargers could not get out of their own way. Back-to-back weeks with 10 or more penalties, back-to-back weeks with multiple turnovers, and that has been the calling card over the last couple of weeks, an undisciplined, sloppy football team who now has a game next week against the Dolphins with a chance to try to save their season from spiraling out of control. But for the full game breakdown, make sure to check out the Locked On Chargers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You talked about the Eagles maybe losing their superpower of running the ball in the second half. I feel like the Chargers have actually lost their superpower, which was their offensive line. Like, it's just too much. They've had too many injuries there. They're just not able to keep Herbert as upright as he was early in the season when they looked absolutely dominant. And without that, they're just simply not a good enough football team. But the penalties were a big problem here. And I was surprised with how undisciplined they look being, you know, a Jim Harbaugh team. That's a surprise to me.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I think the Chargers were like the team in the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yes.
Maybe Green Bay too, that looked like they were going to take that step from good to great. But when you lose two pillars of your offensive line, your two star tackles, you know, everything collapses. That's like part of the Eagles' issues is it doesn't matter how talented you are around the offensive line. If the offensive line is not in sync or struggling, injured, all of the above, it can throw everything off. And that is absolutely what's happening to the Chargers right now, these last 3 weeks.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough for them. They've dropped these two in a row, and I don't know where the help is coming from. They definitely look like a much less intimidating team without that offensive line prowess behind them. But we also got a bunch of crazy comebacks from what I would say are not good teams. The Panthers come back 17 points on the Miami Dolphins. Poor Mike McDaniel looked dejected. The Saints come back from down 11 points against the New York Giants. People freaking out about Jackson Dart last week. I thought they didn't watch his tape if they were freaking out too much about Jackson Dart. And then this week, he looked rough out there. They made a ton of mistakes. And then the Titans pull up one of the most insane comebacks you will ever see. Down 18 points, down 15 in the fourth quarter, and they come back and win over the Arizona Cardinals. An absolute collapse. Out of those three comebacks, what kind of stands out to you the most?
Honestly, it probably is that Titans comeback. I just can't believe that play that kind of sprung loose the comeback. I mean, that touchdown, and we've had another in back-to-back weeks, supposed touchdown going to the back of the end zone for a touchback. I've never seen something like so consistent in the NFL, which is unbelievable, especially with all the block kicks. It's just been a very weird start to the season. So for me, like, there's not a huge takeaway because all those teams I don't think are playoff contenders. But for the Titans to get that kind of quality win on the road, I think it definitely saves their coach's job at least. I don't know about you.
Another week.
For another week, he stays
You know,
alive. In Miami, it's starting to look like the opposite. Like, this could be the end of McDaniels pretty soon.
Yeah, that was a huge swing. I bet Brian Callahan was number one in the odds to be the
Yeah.
first coach fired. It
Might have
probably goes
flipped.
back to Mike McDaniel after that one. But honestly, my big takeaway is about the Cardinals because of all of the 6 teams involved in those 3 comebacks that we just rolled through quickly. The Cardinals were the only team that I would have said before the season, like, oh, I think they could be a playoff team. And
Right.
the way that they have disappointed, it finally got them. First couple of weeks, Saints, Panthers, they get wins, but those teams came back at the end. They couldn't close the door properly. It's something my guy Alex Clancy from Locked On Cardinals has been complaining about throughout the season, and they just can't close out these games. And now it actually came back and bit them. And you have Kyler Murray taking a snap off the face mask and a fumble. And then, like you said, DeMarcado drops the ball at the goal line when it's about to be 28-6 and the game is over. Then the Cam Ward has a ball tipped. It's intercepted. The guy fumbles the interception and it goes into the end zone. And Tyler Lockett recovers for a touchdown. Like, just a bunch of crazy stuff. And at the end of the day, it just seems like the Cardinals are just cursed. They're just not a mature team that can close these things down.
And I think a lot of that is because of who their quarterback is. I don't want to say it's all Kyler Murray's fault, but normally your team is a direct extension of who your quarterback is. And the Arizona Cardinals are kind of like the team manifestation of Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I think whether that's fair or not, that is 100% what it looks like. But what it looks like to me is that the Baltimore Ravens season is on life support right now. And after getting absolutely drubbed by the Texans, they are in a bad way. We're going to talk the more surprising team, the Ravens being bad or the Colts being so freaking good. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel, whether it's player props, over-unders, money lines, spreads, putting them all together in a same game parlay. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something extra riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or a diehard, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started again. That's FanDuel.com. All right, Louis, let's cap off today's recap of a crazy, wild Week 5 in the NFL. We talked about some of the best teams in the league and some of the best games. We talked about all the wild comebacks. Now we got to talk about the blowouts because there were a couple of blowouts this week, and I think they tell us 2 totally different things about the teams involved. But we got to start with the Indianapolis Colts, who absolutely throttle the Raiders 40-6. Jonathan Taylor, 3 rushing touchdowns on the day. Absolutely fantastic. Looking like a potential offensive player of the year candidate right now. And my guy Jake Arthur from Locked On Colts broke down the big win.
Dominating Indianapolis Colts win today, 40-6 over the visiting Las Vegas Raiders. Your Colts are 4-1. They're first in the AFC South. They've now got 3 wins in dominating fashion. They've got another against the Broncos, who just so happened to topple the Eagles. So this resume is starting to get some style points to it. This was a total, complete team win for the Colts. Not a lot of gripes to go around. Offensively, they scored on 6 consecutive drives there in the, throughout the middle of the game. Defensively, 4 sacks, 3 turnovers. They basically forced Geno Smith into a lot of mistakes that we said they needed to do. You got Latu getting his 2nd interception of the season. You got Tyquan Lewis extending his team lead with 3 sacks. You got a blocked punt that led to another Colts touchdown. Tyler Warren gets his first career receiving touchdown, throws a pass. It was incomplete. But Jonathan Taylor gets another hat trick, 3 touchdowns today. The early season chats of Offensive Player of the Year have begun. You're kind of starting to see more appreciation there nationally. We're going to have a lot more on this matchup and the next one against the Cardinals. They offer some unique challenges on defense. We're going to have way more on this one and that one coming up throughout the week. That's Locked On Colts on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts.
I mean, the Colts are for real, man. They're just for real. Their roster's good. Their defensive pass rush is playing a lot better with Latu back in the lineup. I mean, I know that the Raiders aren't a great team, but they don't have a lot of tough games on the schedule. They're gonna be there right at the end. They're gonna make the playoffs.
Yeah, no, they're going to, and I don't think they're still like an elite football team that could compete for a Super Bowl. But to win the AFC South this year, like, it's not going to take that. They're clearly the most consistent team in that division. They're very well coached. Shane Steichen's going to be a Coach of the Year favorite, at least through the first month of the season. And they're an underrated roster. Like, I think there's a lot of players. He mentioned, like, Jonathan Taylor being slept on. There's a lot of guys slept on in that roster on both sides of the ball. And I don't think it's, like, completely shocking that they're this consistent against inferior opponents with a pretty favorable schedule. So, yeah, I don't think they're suddenly, like, going to push the Bills, for instance, in the AFC or Kansas City and those kind of teams, but I think they're clearly the team to beat in the AFC South.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. Now, what I will say here is, at the end of the day, I don't see him as a true Super Bowl contender because I just can't trust Daniel Jones in big games at the end of the season. Yeah. It does feel Sam Darnold-y, where it's like Sam Darnold was great all year, and then when it got to the real important games, he kind of fell back off. I'm expecting that again, unless Daniel
Or even
Jones
Denver last year, too, similarly.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
I agree with that 100%. But you mentioned the AFC South, and, you know, I would say the Colts are the favorite, but the AFC South got more competitive this weekend because the Houston Texans have rattled off back-to-back wins. The other blowout is they absolutely smoked the Baltimore Ravens. And look, I know that the Ravens don't have Lamar Jackson. They had a couple of injuries, but the way that their defense is getting trounced week in and week out is an absolute concern. And my guy, Kevin Ostreicher from Locked On Ravens, talked about that.
What an awful game for the Baltimore Ravens in week number 5 against the Houston Texans. I'm Kevin Ostreicher, the host of Locked On Ravens. 44-10 the final score. And honestly, it wasn't even that close. The Ravens just across the board, terrible football. There were a lot of injuries, obviously, but that's not an excuse, especially for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations. Baltimore falls to 1-4. The Ravens, again, forced just one punt on the entire day on the defensive side of the ball, and that came with about 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. This Ravens team is lost. They're dejected, and right now they need to consider major changes. Will they make those changes? Who knows? But at this point, they cannot continue doing what they're doing because at the end of the day, there is plenty to look yourselves in the mirror with if you're the Baltimore Ravens. That is John Harbaugh. That is the players. It's the rest of the coaching staff too. But the Ravens have given up 37-plus points in 4 of their first 5 games. That's completely unacceptable. You have a Rams team coming to town next week. You can't drop to 1-5. You couldn't drop to 1-4, but now you really can't drop to 1-5. So for more on the Ravens and their Week 5 loss, be sure to check out the Locked On Ravens podcast and subscribe on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
What would you say is more surprising to you right now? The Colts being as good as they are or the Ravens being as bad as they are?
The Ravens. I'm so shocked they're this bad. I thought outside of the Eagles, this was the best roster in the entire NFL. And the fact that they're losing games like this is unbelievable. And I know Lamar wasn't playing today, but this team has felt checked out since they blew that lead from the Buffalo Bills season opener. It just feels like the choking has caught up to them too much now, where they just don't believe in themselves. And I don't want to say it's like that black and white, but I really feel like after that and the Derrick Henry fumble a couple weeks ago against Detroit, against good teams when they keep losing games like this, I think they're looking ahead too much to the playoffs too, and just saying like we got to figure out how to stop this. And like they're not even going to get there at this point. So in my honest opinion, I think that's the biggest issue. And when that's a problem, I think you got to have like significant change, and it's probably in the form of maybe a new coach at some point, because this roster, they have no business only having one win this year.
And that's the thing. We could say like Lamar Jackson didn't play in this game, but they were 1-3 with Lamar Jackson playing. And the defense, he doesn't play defense. The defense has been absolutely despicable. It's unbelievable to see a Ravens defense be that bad. Absolutely shocking. So I'm with you there. You could look at the Colts roster and say if he got a little bit better out of Daniel Jones, the AFC South isn't good. Right. You know, the Colts could make the playoffs, win that division, but if you told me the Ravens would be 1-4 after the first 5 weeks, I would not have believed that whatsoever. So that is a crazy outcome. But going through the rest of the schedule, the games that we didn't touch on directly, the Vikings get a late second win. Carson Wentz leads them down to beat the Cleveland Browns. I thought Dylan Gabriel was fine in that game. Honestly, it wasn't the biggest issue for the Browns there. Myles Garrett didn't really do anything in that game. I think that was a big surprise with some of the injuries on the Vikings offensive line.
That actually was the game I was going to highlight, because Carson Wentz, It's kind of crazy that he's reviving his career with his childhood team, with the receiver he maybe should have always had in Philadelphia. The Eagles took Jalen Reagor that year instead of Justin Jefferson, and Wentz and Jefferson are connecting. Like, Jefferson has back-to-back games with over 100 receiving yards. I don't know if they'll stick with Carson when J.J. McCarthy is healthy, but he's the better quarterback for this offense right now. 236 passing yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. It's kind of a really cool story right now, and the Vikings suddenly are 3-2 and looking like a team that's not going to regress this year. Like, Kevin O'Connell, this is just what he does with quarterbacks. It's unbelievable. He's the best quarterback coach in the game right now.
Yeah, he's certainly the best quarterback developer. He gets the most out of the guys under center, and I think you're right. But I would say that that's kind of a bad thing to hear if you're someone who believes in J.J. McCarthy, that he gets the absolute best out of all these people, and it'd almost be better for them to stick with Carson Wentz because he can't get the best. If he can't get it out of J.J. McCarthy, I wonder who could, or if it's even possible. The Cowboys won 37-22 over the Jets. The score is closer than what that game actually was. That was an absolute beatdown. Dak Prescott is just playing great football right now. And then the last game is the Lions, who, again, that score is closer than what that game was, 37-24 over the Bengals. The Lions are rolling, but Dak Prescott is rolling too. If the Cowboys can get their defense figured out, they're at least going to be super competitive.
If they find a way to sneak into the playoffs, I know they normally don't give the MVP to like a team that makes the wild card, but Dak Prescott is a really good case. He's pulling off kind of like what Burrow did with the Bengals last year, only I think Dallas has a chance to be competitive at the bottom of that playoff picture in the NFC. So what Prescott's doing is pretty unbelievable because the Cowboys roster, they don't really have any business being 2-1 at this point.
Yeah, especially that win over the Packers, or the tie that they had with the Packers, which
big.
feels like a win when you're the underdog in that way. When you're expected to get blown out, a tie feels like a win for the Cowboys in that scenario. But, hey, we still got another amazing, awesome matchup on Monday Night Football. The Jacksonville Jaguars, the Kansas City Chiefs. Cannot wait to dive into that one. I'll be back tomorrow night after that game to break it all down. But that's going to do it for us today here on Locked On NFL. I am your host, the Madman, Tyler Rowland, with my co-host, the Legacy, Louis DiBiase, as we tell you every episode. Thanks for tuning in, and stay safe out there.